I knew the day would end badly the moment she pulled my father away from me during dinner and laughed like it was harmless teasing. My father barely noticed because she kept talking loudly enough to control the entire room while pretending everything was normal. Her fingers tightened around his arm possessively whenever he looked toward me for longer than a few seconds. And I spent most of the meal forcing myself to stay calm because my little brother was happily sitting beside me, unaware that every family gathering became exhausting whenever she felt ignored. She was not even my father's wife, but she acted like she owned every part of his life. The worst part was how desperate she became whenever my mother's memory appeared anywhere near the family. My mother had been dead for years, long before my father met her, yet she competed against a woman she never even knew. Sometimes I caught her staring at old framed photographs with bitterness so obvious that even my grandmother noticed it. Although nobody confronted her directly because my father always defended her before arguments could grow. She especially hated my relationship with him. If my father asked me about school, she suddenly became upset about something unrelated. If we laughed together, she interrupted us. If I sat beside him during meals, she created tension until the entire mood collapsed. Once, she cried because my father helped me fix something heavy outside the house instead of immediately helping her carry groceries. And the entire afternoon turned into accusations about loyalty and respect, while I quietly apologized for something that was never wrong to begin with. I stopped trying to fight back after a while because every confrontation somehow ended with me becoming the problem. She knew exactly how to cry at the perfect moment. She knew how to make my father panic emotionally until he forgot what the argument originally started from. I hated how effective her manipulation was, but I loved my little brother too much to completely walk away from them. That afternoon at my grandmother's house felt strangely peaceful at first. My little brother kept following my father around asking childish questions while my grandmother prepared food in the kitchen. My grandfather stayed inside his office organizing papers, occasionally calling my father inside to show him old family pictures stored beneath the glass covering his wooden desk. The office had always fascinated me because my grandfather preserved memories everywhere. Beneath the glass were photographs from different years of our family, including pictures of my father as a child beside his siblings, birthdays, reunions, and wedding photographs with different spouses, including my mother. My mother's photograph rested near the center of the desk beside one of the earliest family portraits. Even after all these years, my grandparents never removed her from the collection. I once asked my grandmother why she still kept that photograph displayed so carefully, and she simply told me that death never erased someone from the family. I remembered that conversation while helping prepare plates in the kitchen. Across the room, my father looked genuinely happy, while my little brother climbed onto his lap, laughing loudly. For once, there was no argument, no jealousy, no dramatic interruption. Then I noticed she was missing. At first, I assumed she went outside to answer a phone call, but several minutes passed without her returning. The house slowly became quiet in a way that immediately made my stomach tighten, because silence around her usually meant trouble was building somewhere unseen. I left the kitchen and walked through the hallway toward the living room. As I passed my grandfather's office, I noticed the door slightly open. There was also a narrow window beside the entrance facing the hallway, and through that window I saw her standing beside the desk. She looked around carefully first. Then she reached beneath the glass. My chest tightened instantly when I realized which photograph she pulled out. My mother. She stared at the picture for several long seconds with an expression I had never fully seen before. It was not simple anger. It looked deeper, uglier, almost desperate. Then she slowly tore the photograph in half. I froze. She continued ripping the picture carefully, piece by piece, while tiny scraps scattered across the desk. Her lips moved as if she was whispering to herself. I could not hear every word through the glass, but I heard my mother's name once before she laughed quietly under her breath. My hands shook so badly that I nearly dropped my phone. Part of me wanted to burst into the office immediately and scream at her, but fear stopped me because I already knew what would happen afterward. She would cry. My father would defend her. Somehow the entire situation would twist until I became the cruel one again. So I stepped backwards silently and returned toward the kitchen. My grandmother asked why I looked pale, but I blamed the heat. I could barely focus on anything afterward because I kept replaying the image of her, smiling while destroying my mother's photograph. Across the room, my father remained completely unaware while helping my little brother open a bottle at the dining table. Watching him laugh honestly hurt more than the actual photograph because he had no idea what kind of resentment existed beneath her fake sweetness. When she finally returned, she behaved perfectly normal. She kissed my little brother's forehead affectionately, fixed my father's collar, and even smiled toward me while taking her seat. I stared at her hands during dinner, wondering if pieces of the torn photograph were still hidden beneath her fingernails. Then my grandfather entered the dining room holding torn scraps of paper. The entire table became silent. He looked directly at my father before calmly asking who entered his office. Nobody answered immediately. She reacted first. She began crying violently, covering her face while claiming she found the photograph already destroyed after entering the office to search for medicine. Then she looked toward me for the briefest second. That single glance told me everything. My father slowly turned toward me with disappointment already forming across his face. And anger exploded inside my chest before fear could stop it this time. I stood from my chair and told everyone I saw her inside the office through the hallway window. She denied it instantly. She even swore on my little brother's life. My grandmother looked horrified while my father demanded both of us stop accusing each other. Through tears, she claimed I hated her because she replaced my mother in the family. Hearing her say that nearly made me laugh because nobody could replace my mother, especially not someone obsessed with competing against a dead woman. My grandfather remained strangely calm throughout the argument. Without raising his voice, he returned to the office and came back carrying a small black device from one of the shelves. The moment she saw it, her face lost color. A security camera. My grandfather explained that documents had disappeared months earlier, so he secretly installed a camera inside the office. My father connected the footage onto the television while nobody spoke. The recording showed everything. Her nervous glances. Her hands pulling my mother's photograph from beneath the glass. The slow tearing. The smile afterward. Silence swallowed the room completely after the video ended. For once, she had no performance prepared quickly enough to save herself. My father looked devastated. She begged him repeatedly to listen while admitting jealousy clouded her judgment because my mother's memories still existed strongly inside the family. She claimed she always felt invisible beside someone everyone continued loving even after death. But nobody defended her anymore. My grandfather told her to leave immediately. My grandmother quietly carried my little brother upstairs before he could hear more fighting. I remained standing beside the table watching years of manipulation finally collapse under undeniable proof. My father never shouted at her. Instead, he stepped backward when she tried touching him. That hurt her more than screaming ever could. For the first time since entering our lives, she looked powerless. And for the first time since my mother died, I finally watched truth become stronger than her lies.